Welcome to Planet People, a podcast that aims to inspire curiosity and cultivate a deeper connection with the natural world.
We are thrilled to be sharing stories with you that highlight the beauty and importance of protecting our planet's wildlife.
Be sure to follow us on social media and your favorite podcast streaming platform so that you never miss an episode.
Happy Halloween, Planet People! Halloween week!
Happy spooky season. We'll be talking about all the birds and the spooky, creepy critters of the desert for this fun episode.
We hope that you've enjoyed the October month of all of the spooky animals that we stacked and lined up for you guys. And today we have even spookier episode because it's going to be a little bit less scientific. We will be sharing some fun facts, but we're going to get into like the spooky nature and folklore of wildlife and specific animals that kind of are associated with Halloween and spooky season and witches and
we love it. All of it. We're also joined by one of our other team members, Hugh Carr. What's up, Hugh? Welcome to the show. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you do on the team?
Well, normally I'm behind the scenes and I essentially run the social media accounts and provide strategy, and I'm cutting a lot of the clips that you see on social media. And so yeah, it's usually what I'm doing, but here I am talking to you guys about spooky season because it's my favorite season.
Yes, we love it. It's perfect time for you to join the show. It's like so you.
Yeah. Hugh has the most specialist job of all of being my partner.
That's true. Coral and Hugh go way back. We all went to school together. Like, what has it been? I don't know, 12 years we've known each other?
Getting there.
Yeah.
The scary thing is how fast time is going.
I know. Well, we're halfway through October already, and Halloween is like, what, 2 weeks away now?
Yeah.
And you guys are going to have some fun. I know you guys always go big for Halloween.
We love our Halloween season.
Yes. Do you guys have a costume picked out yet?
It's actually the first year that we don't, but there's a few things in the works. And actually, Hugh, I thought of, somebody else thought of it, but I'm considering being something else, and I'll tell you about it later.
Wait, I thought, Hugh, you were telling me you guys wanted to be characters from Hercules.
Well, it's all potential, but I do think I would make a really good Hades. So
Facts.
That makes me Meg.
Yes, you also have the hair to be Meg, Coral.
Yeah.
And I feel like you could whip together like a cute little like draping purple dress with like gold cuffs for Meg.
Yeah, for sure.
I can see it. I totally can see that. I don't know what we're going to be, but I think it would be funny to be like, I don't want to make Zach dress in a chimp suit, but like Jane Goodall in her chimp.
Oh my God. Not you having a little monkey man.
Oh my gosh, I would love if you did that.
I know. Or Jane Porter and Tarzan.
Honestly, well, I think that's a good one, but
So I could dress like, we could do, okay, this is what I was thinking. For Halloween, Zach dresses like Tarzan with like, the drape covering the groin and that's it. And like some ropes around his shoulders. And me, I'll be like the wild Jane Porter. And then Saturday night on November 1st, when we go to that wildlife gala, I can dress as Jane Porter, the British princess, bringing Tarzan home in his suit. So we could do like a double look in the same weekend.
I love that.
Just to commemorate Jane.
But also to say, like, a chimpanzee costume is so classic for Halloween. So if he has that around.
How funny would that be? Also, I was Jane last year, so like I could just be a different Jane this year.
Yeah.
Different eras of Jane.
Different eras of Jane, I know. And shout out to Jane. By the time we recorded this, she had passed 2 weeks ago yesterday. And we'll actually be sharing another episode about that later this season, just to kind of commemorate her and some stories that we have around her. But for now, we're focusing on spooky season, and I'm getting excited. 2 weeks away.
So for October this month, we talked a lot about the Raven and we covered it with Tim Shields, we covered it with Katie, and now we're going to talk about it yet again in this episode, but we're going to bring some fun folklore into it. So, Hugh, I know after years of being with you, ravens are a big theme in your life. So I'm excited for you to have the platform to talk about them because you talk my ear off about them all.
I love it though. All the Raven stories from Hugh, they're always good ones.
They follow me. I don't follow them. Just want to make that one clear. But now I follow them kind of, but it really started with them following me, and I was really resistant to it. But yeah, since we didn't talk about ravens enough in the 2 episodes, we're going to do it a third time. Yeah, I think ravens are like the perfect segue to get into the spooky season because when you see a picture of like a witch, you usually see like a raven like perched on her shoulder, or like if you see a warlock, like ravens like coming out from behind him, and you'll see like images of like ravens perched on like a dead tree. So it's just like very creepy in many ways, and
Or
they're
with a
also
full moon behind them.
full moon behind them. Yeah, they're completely black. So in many ways they are spooky, but I also think that they get somewhat of a bad rep and that they've been depicted in these folklore as harbingers of evil, and I don't think that's necessarily true all the time.
Well, that's what we're here today.
We're debunking all the myths and exploring the folklore behind why these animals get a certain reputation in our culture and in cultures from many, many years ago.
But yeah, I mean, ravens, they are pretty infamous in mythology and folklore. And since they're practically on every continent, so many different cultures have them. Uh, I think one of the most famous would be like Norse mythology, like Odin and his like two ravens, and he would send the ravens to like spy on people, and like then they could like kind of teleport and go back to Odin and tell them all the things. I feel like throughout all these different cultures, the main theme is that they're like tricksters or like messengers, or they could be seen as like a ill like omen or like a sign of death, or they could also be seen as like prophetic and like have insight and wisdom. And so they're really kind of a dichotomy. But yeah, and they typically, I think what makes it like spooky season is that they often in all these different cultures like represent the spirit realm and like the messengers from the undead kind
Hmm.
of. So in America, I feel like the most famous thing arguably is Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. If you guys haven't read it, I recommend it. But basically what's interesting is that the whole thing is that the raven was like croaking nevermore throughout the whole thing, like nevermore. And now I'm kind of just learning as of like 10 minutes before this episode that ravens, just like parrots, can mimic human speech, but apparently they can do it a lot better than parrots. Um, so like with parrots, it's very like squawk, like give me the dab, kind of thing. And ravens, since they're so smart and clearly are thinking on their feet, they really take the time to like mimic the human that they're like trying to mimic. So basically I was looking, and then this woman on TikTok who's, I'm just going to shout out her handle at Wings and Wildlands. She's a raven keeper in Scotland.
Oh,
And she has a theory. This is what gets into like the spooky season of it all. She has a theory why ravens have been kind of seen as in like all these like supernatural or like spooky fables and stuff like that. And she thinks it's because they can mimic people so well.
Mm,
So then,
interesting.
yeah, so she has a raven named Fable, and she says it can make like over 100 different sounds. She can sound like her really well. She can sound like other people. She can sound like a droplet of water. She can sound like a knock on the door. She can sound like
Oh my God, that's crazy. I didn't know all of this.
yeah, so we can link her TikTok to the show notes, but it's interesting because I think that a lot of people, maybe back in the day, thought it was like a knock on the door or like somebody talking to them, but really it was probably just a raven talking to them in the trees.
Whoa,
Yeah.
Insane.
that's some crazy shit right there. We need to find a video and post it of a raven mimicking somebody because it's hard for me to believe. I mean, yeah, we always associate like the parrot to be the mimickers, not a raven.
Yeah. And I mean, I even, when she was doing the video, that the one video I saw and I only watched like half of it, the raven said hi in the middle of it. She was just like, hi. And I was like, oh, it can talk.
Wow, that's
Crazy.
I
Yeah,
wonder what their like range of words is with language.
I
And
don't know
obviously it would be different languages too, depending on where they are.
for sure. I mean, you see that with parrots too. If they're like around people who speak Spanish, they'll speak Spanish. So I'm sure it'd be the same thing. But yeah, as we know, I'm sure it's a lot because when we learned with Tim Shields and Katie Shaw is that they got a memory. They remember things. So I'm sure they have a lot of words. But the reason I brought up ravens is because I feel like they follow me and show themselves a lot to me and make,
Where do they show themselves to you? Like, are you
well,
on walks? What are you doing?
everywhere, like everywhere. Yeah, walks. Could be driving somewhere. Typically, it's more when I'm like outside and walking, so I can like hear them. But yeah, they'll make the chittering sound at me or something like that, and I swear I'm like the only one around when it happens. But yeah, they typically, and I feel like whenever I see one and then I see another one and then like I kind of see them a lot, it, so here, let me divert. It represents death in a lot of cultures, but I typically don't see that as necessarily a negative thing. I think it could be like kind of a spiritual meaning of death
Mm.
and like, oh, something's ending or like a time period is ending. And so that happens a lot when Coral and I were moving to the place that we're in now. Beforehand, when we were trying to find the place, I swear that whole month was like ravens, 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 ravens. They were, one was like at a place that we were looking, and then it was like a terrible place. And then as I leave, there was a raven, and it was like croak. And I was like, yeah, it wasn't good. Thank you for reminding me.
Well, they're also considered like shamans in some cultures,
Mhm.
like
Interesting.
messengers.
Yeah, messengers, they typically will like bring messages in Greek mythology. They're associated with Apollo, which was the god of prophecy. But in Greek mythology, they are actually seen as a symbol of bad luck because they were bringing messengers from the gods in the mortal world. Typically, they weren't good messages. So there's that. Something that I thought was interesting was in the Quran version of Cain and Abel, a raven is mentioned as the creature who taught Cain how to bury his murdered brother Abel. So it was the raven who was like, let me show you how to bury your brother.
Wow.
Yeah. So another animal that I wanted to also bring up because they are typically linked with ravens is coyotes. And I'm constantly seeing either the same coyote or different coyotes in our neighborhood, Coral. When I'm walking our dog,
We
I
saw one
think
yesterday.
I saw one yesterday. Hey, I was talking to Coral and I was like, "What animal are you going to talk about in tomorrow's like episode?" And she was like, "I don't know." And I was like, "Well, I'm probably going to talk about coyotes." And then we turn
Turned
around
around.
and there's a coyote. staring at me. He was like, "You called?" Uh, Yeah, so in general, so what's interesting is that with coyotes, since they're only found in North America, right, Nat?
Hmm.
So then that kind of leads into the only like mythology and folklore that you get with coyotes is typically like indigenous Americans. So and the raven as well is like mentioned a lot. So with the raven and the coyote, they're both seen as like tricksters. And without going too much in depth, sometimes they work together in these stories and sometimes they work against each other. I know in one of them, the raven tried to outwit the coyote, but then he ended up getting tricked instead. So I think that was Navajo, and that was trying to teach that the even the clever can be humbled.
Mm,
Mm,
mm.
mm. So yeah, what is interesting and why I'm bringing up coyotes too is because I feel like the spooky thing about coyotes is when you hear them at night, and
Oh my God, it's so freaky.
it's very
The
freaky.
pack, the howling pack.
Yeah.
It's freaky.
Because they make a lot of like yips and howls and like laughs and sounds like a baby crying or something. I don't know.
Like it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So both of them are seen as tricksters
So,
with
Natalie, how do they kind of coincide in nature to kind of like be lumped together like this, even in folklore?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there is this image sometimes you'll see a raven with like a wolf or a coyote, and they kind of operate together. And the reason for that is oftentimes if a wolf is hunting in a pack, the ravens know that there might be a kill nearby that offers them a food source. And I also think that the ravens maybe like alert wolves or alert other members of like a raven group that wolves are nearby. You know, they know how to communicate with their friends and their other members of their bird flock. And so it's kind of like this alert system and maybe a symbiotic relationship in some capacity where the raven thrives when the wolf thrives. Because if the wolf is hunting, then likely the raven and the vultures and maybe bears or other animals will come over for the kill. So it's kind of this effect of the food chain when they work together. And you see this in other relationships with coyotes. Actually, there's a really famous video of a coyote and a badger walking underneath
Yeah.
a wildlife channel tunnel together. I think the same with maybe fox and coyote or something. And so with the advance of technology, we start to see these relationships unfold in ways that maybe they weren't captured before. And so there's this one video I'm thinking of with the raven and the wolf and the bear approaching this stream. This was just going around the internet in like the last 6 weeks. It's this really cool representation of when all of these animals flock together and live in harmony, which is really cool.
That is so cool.
Yeah,
The video of the coyote and badger, I'm pretty sure that we use that as reference on the film that I'm working on.
I love that video. I've probably watched it so many times. Yep,
Cool. Thank you, Hugh, for all of the raven and coyote
I know. I love all
folklore.
the folklore. You went right into that. That was great.
no problem. Thanks for having me.
Halloween is your specialty.
Halloween is my specialty. And I would say last thing is the scariest thing about the coyote is that I'm like, my dog is a walking snack for this little coyote to eat. And so that's the scariest thing.
I would
Yeah.
have to second that.
And he doesn't even find it scary. He barks at everything. He barks at the mailman. He barks at someone else's dog. But as soon as he sees a coyote, he's like, "Hey,
He's like, take me.
take me. I'm not going to put up a fight."
Yeah. Well, we see them all the time in the area that we live, but I also have a coyote friend in Griffith Park that whenever I go on my walks there, I end up seeing this like same coyote and he usually is on the golf course that's there, and he'll actually like walk alongside of me. So I've been on many different walks where he's just walking with me. And I've told people that, and they're like, you need to get away from that thing. Like, especially if you see one alone. I've heard people say if you see one alone, it means that they're like shunned from their pack or something. I don't know if that's true. Natalie, maybe you know. But I don't know. He was like a little buddy for me. I went on many a walk with him actually, or her, and they never really bothered me other than just walking alongside of me. So I don't know if that's a bad omen or a trickster omen or what, but I enjoyed my walks with my little coyote friend.
And I can confirm because I would be on these walks with her half the time.
And it would just be walking alongside you.
Yeah, just be walking alongside us and just having a good old time. And that was
Yeah,
before we had a dog, so
it would show up with you, but it would show up if I was by myself, it would show up for me too. I don't know if when you went by yourself if it would show up, but
can't
no.
remember. I can't remember. It hasn't shown itself in a long time. Maybe it went somewhere else, but um,
We
definitely was
haven't been there in a while.
friendly vibes.
It was friendly vibes.
Well, crazy thing about coyotes is actually when they lose a member of their pack, they do a roll call every night. So you hear that howling as a pack, and they can tell as a pack when one individual is missing from the roll call. And so when there's one missing, this signals to the female a hormone in her body to start to begin like becoming reproductively like available for male coyotes to impregnate her again so
Oh,
that they
wow.
can add more members to the pack. So they reproduce pretty quickly and can fulfill the pack if there's a member missing, like, yeah, pretty
Wow.
regularly.
That's that's pretty crazy.
It's a pretty cool animal instinct for sure.
Yeah. Wow. Coyotes are cool. They definitely get a bad rap.
Well, I think to break up the bird segments, we can share a little bit about the tarantulas folklore around Halloween and why that is very much associated with being like a spooky figure during Halloween season. I mean, you see giant spiders across people's front lawns or on their house, and there's a good reason for the timing of that as well. It's not just because tarantulas are a spooky creature, they actually mostly surface from their hibernation during October, during the fall months. And
Oh,
so
really?
yes,
Oh, wow.
pretty cool, right?
So their time to come out and play is in October.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. I love that.
Yep. It's a perfect synchronicity. And you can actually see tarantulas on their migratory you can actually see tarantulas on their migration if you go out in the desert. Oftentimes, maybe they'll be crossing the road or they'll be just walking in the sand, like on solitary or with other tarantulas, and they have these little holes in the ground. And so I had the pleasure of seeing them a couple years ago during their migration. It was in 2023, and I was going on this massive trip around California in search of the California condor with the Wildlife Society. And I think that should just be an episode in itself. That story that I really gained from that journey was super cool, seeing tons of condors all over the state. But along with condors, I also saw tarantulas on their migration and got to hold one. And they're quite docile creatures. And, they have a terrible reputation, especially in Hollywood, where movies and TV shows have made out tarantulas to be aggressive man killers. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I was an arachnophobe from a very early age after watching that fucking Lord of the Rings shot of the giant spider. That female spider, what was her name?
Um, I don't
I don't know what was
remember.
scarier, fucking Gollum or that tarantula spider.
That and
I was horrified.
also the Harry Potter spider scenes. That one really got me too.
Everything.
I
Harry
don't know
Potter
why.
just scared me in general, to be honest.
Harry Potter scared you?
I didn't like the creepy shadow things.
The Dementors.
Yeah,
Oh,
I made one and it's outside of my house right
I
now.
remember. You're very proud of that. I know.
I love the Dementor that I
I
made.
know you do. I don't like them.
I don't know why I've been cautious of spiders. I've never been scared of spiders.
Phew.
Like the scene in Lord of the Rings, I thought it was cool.
Nope.
The scenes in Harry Potter, I thought they were cool. The only, I've just been cautious because I remember there was like a Black Widow in our garage once, or probably multiple times. And my mom was like, watch out, that's a Black Widow. And so I'd be like, oh, cool. But never like a huge fear.
Always fearful. I was an arachnophobe because I got scared when I was at sleepaway camp. As a little girl, I would go to sleepaway camp every summer in the mountains in Virginia, and we slept in log cabins for 2 weeks, and there were wolf spiders everywhere. I was like 10 years old, and there were giant wolf spiders like crawling over my head when I was sleeping, so terrifying.
So the tarantulas, they get a bad rap, but I mean, isn't it that if they do bite you, like they're really poisonous, but they don't typically? Is that
Good point. So they are actually non-venomous. Like if
oh
you pick them up, they will not like bite you, but if you do get stung by one, it's like less harmful than a bee sting,
oh
like less intoxicating than a bee sting. They're really not like going to feel attacked by you. So it's funny because a lot of people, yeah, how they get this bad rep in Hollywood, but they're actually pretty non-aggressive and popular as pets, surprisingly. And when they're threatened, they will perform this kind of threat display by rearing up and hissing their ends. And yes, spiders do hiss, but they only bite as like a very absolute last resort.
Hmm.
Yeah. The spooky truth about tarantulas is that they have 8 eyes and they have fangs. So they look freaky and they make for a good villainous role in Hollywood. So I get why they would be chosen, right? But it's funny, they have 8 eyes, but they have terrible vision.
I was gonna
Oh.
say, what do you think it's like seeing out of 8 eyes?
Well, they primarily navigate through vibrations when they use their webs, so I don't think that their eyes are much use to them at all. So not only do they have 8 eyes that they can't really see that well out of, they also have these crazy, like massive, intense, impressive fangs. So they look terrifying, right? But those fangs are actually perfectly designed for their hunting strategy.
Oh, what is that?
They ambush predators that use those fangs and they pierce through the exoskeleton of beetles, grasshoppers, and other arthropods. So their venom, in this case, is highly specialized for invertebrates and relatively harmless to humans. So it's, like I said, less toxic than a bee sting for most species.
So it comes out of their fangs.
Yes.
That's crazy.
And, you know, going even further back to some really original folklore, people believed that the only cure for a tarantula bite was to dance frantically until the venom wore off, which is where we get the phrase tarantella. And in reality, actually, most tarantula bites just cause mild symptoms at worst. So there was this crazy hysteria about them, even dating back to the 1500s.
And so people believed that they had to dance it out.
Yep. Apparently, the word tarantula comes from Taranto, which is Italian for where a deadly spider dance is called tarantism. And so apparently, this idea of tarantism swept through the region in like the 1500s,
Wow.
way back.
That's interesting. Spider dance.
Yep.
We should make
Kind of
that
random, right?
new TikTok dance.
That would be hilarious.
Ranta dance.
Tarantula dance.
Well, we touched on some spooky folklore with tarantulas, but I think it's important to note that they're also ecosystem engineers. So they do play a crucial role in keeping insect populations in check. So a lot of spiders have this important role to play. And in fact, a single tarantula can actually consume hundreds of insects, beetles, grasshoppers, crickets. And in that way, they're actually a keystone species in that they control the balance of arthropod communities. And without them, pest populations would likely explode.
Mm.
Shout out to the tarantula.
I thoroughly enjoyed my encounter with one. I held it right in the palm of my hands, and I was pretty stoked. It was a fun moment.
So
They're super docile.
something you mentioned in the beginning is their migratory path. Where are they typically migrating to and from?
Migration is a little bit misleading looking back on what I was saying. It's more so that it's a mating ritual where these tarantulas will go basically on a mission to discover a mate and lay eggs and basically reproduce. But I feel like migration I just kind of use loosely, not as like necessarily an intense journey from point A to B, but just as like a movement resurfacing from, being beneath the desert crust for however many months before that. You're most likely to see them during this like mating ritual era that occurs in October. So when I say migration, that's what I'm referring to is this mating ritual. So my 8-year-old self, this one's for you. I've healed from my spider trauma, and now I'm talking about tarantulas on our podcast. So, well, let's fly into this next segment. Coral, share all about your happenings with some owls that you've been seeing recently.
So, speaking of tarantulas, I'm going to talk about the predator of some tarantulas and other spiders, and that is actually an owl. So, that is the animal that I've picked for my spooky segment. And I think that it's not one that everyone just kind of goes to in terms of Halloween. And like, we were considering doing the bat for the segment, but it's a little overdone with the vampires. But I wanted to focus on the owl because I've been seeing so many lately. And I was so excited. I have an owl that is around our house and we've been here for about like 2 years and I've heard it a million times, but I've never seen it. And anytime that I hear it, I kind of go out and I try to spot it, and I haven't been able to. And in a lot of cultures, there's a lot of good and bad with the owl, but one like constant is that they are considered, let's see what culture it is. They are considered guidance animal, like totem animals for the dead and transitioning from this life to the next. And the reason I bring that up is because I actually saw one when Jane Goodall died. And I don't think it was a coincidence when I saw this owl. And it was the owl that I've been trying to see for 2 years. I was so, so excited. And we had this beautiful moment. I was very, very close to it. It was in the tree in my backyard. And it just turned its head almost all the way around and looked me straight dead in the eye for a while. And then it flew off, and it was just so beautiful. I loved that moment. Some spooky owl fun facts is that they have a silent flight. So I think that's something that makes them really spooky because you can't hear them coming. And that's what makes them such amazing predators because they can fly so silently, which is, I think, fairly unique to them. Their eyes also they can't move. And so that's why they have this ability of being able to turn their head all the way around almost, is because their eyes don't move. So they have to compensate with their head. And that's just creepy in itself, them turning their head all the way around. They also have a hooting call, but they have some creepy calls too. So we saw with the burrowing owl, they have like that screech. They have other types of calls similar to ravens of that makes them kind of creepy on the creepier side. And also they have super powerful talons. So I'm pretty sure that they are powerful enough to like crush the heads of some prey that they eat, which is crazy. For the folklore aspect of it, it's interesting. I feel like no matter what animal you talk about, in folklore, there's some cultures that think that it's a really good symbol, and then some cultures that think that it's evil. So in Greek mythology, owls are considered good because they were the companions of Athena, I think. Is that right?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah. So goddess of wisdom, she had owls accompanied her, and they were considered a sign of victory. And when we look at Roman culture and like English folklore, they are considered bad, and they're like considered to be accompaniment with witches, and that it would be a sign of imminent death. And I find it really interesting to hear that about like English culture because they kind of, I feel like we're the ones that also coined black cats as evil and associated black cats with witches, and that happened at a time where um the plague came up because they went and killed all of these cats, and all of these rats came and surfaced up
Mm,
and gave us the plague. So I'm sure that they weren't able to kill owls in the same way, but I can only imagine because of even what you were saying with the tarantula, like these animals are so important for um, different pests and keeping them at bay.
I was just looking up Egyptian mythology with the owl because I knew that there was something. It's like connected to both like death and wisdom, but apparently they called it the devourer of the dead. That's kind of creepy.
Devourer of the dead.
Devourer of the dead.
Yeah, the owl is very much related to death, it seems like. Which again, I think it's kind of similar to the ravens.
I mean, how special that you got to see that owl and it locked eyes with you. I mean, that was the night before Jane died, you know?
It's
There's
crazy.
something to be said about wildlife and spirit signs, you know?
Yeah, and I saw a few others like the remaining week, and I mean, like I see owls every now and then, but not really. I saw one just the other day flying by, a white barn owl.
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah,
No way.
it was really, really cool. I saw it, it was like in the dead of night, and you could just see it because it's this stark white, you know.
Yeah, it's so pretty to see at night. It's crazy.
Another fun fact that I didn't know is that I think is it the great horned owl? They don't actually build their nests and they steal other birds' nests, which makes sense because I'm pretty sure that I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that is the type of owl that lives in our backyard, and there's a red-tailed hawk around here, so it makes sense.
Does make sense. I feel like with owls specifically, they're so infamous because their eyes are so crazy. Like when you look at the eyes of an owl, like they seem otherworldly.
Yeah.
It's a good way of putting it. Otherworldly.
It definitely feels like they're like living in between our realm and the spirit realm because when that owl looked me, so I mean, I it was like the world stopped for a minute when I was looking straight into this owl's eyes. It was so crazy.
Otherworldly. Like an ancient wisdom.
Yeah.
It's tucked behind those eyes and their souls.
Yeah.
I definitely believe in owls and other animals appearing as spirits. They are definitely the portal to like heaven, so to speak.
Why do you think that? Like, I mean, I agree with you. I'm just wondering, why do you think it's birds specifically? Do you think it's because they can fly and they're closer to heaven in that aspect, or do you think that it's something else?
It's a good question. Maybe it is because they can fly and they're like angels
Hmm.
that kind of float in the sky and it act as like the next parallel into the sky world. That's what Robin Wall Kimmerer, who's an author, an indigenous woman, talks about, like the sky world and sky woman. And I think birds act as, yeah, some sort of portal. to that world where they can appear as another animal, perhaps, or another human in the afterlife, like reincarnated as a spirit bird or spirit animal of some form.
That's so cool.
I will say I've had some recent deaths in the last couple of years, and upon losing this person, I had seen a golden eagle each time. And so I think I talked about that a little bit in our episode with Alex Coral. But again, Jane Goodall passed, and I definitely saw her spirit in other animals when I was away in Jackson Hole a couple weekends ago. And so that's a story I'll save for our episode about Jane in the coming weeks. But there's definitely some connection between animals and people that have passed and seeing them. It's just you have to be open to it, to those signs. But I
Yeah,
don't really know why, Hugh. That's just my best guess.
I'm sure no
No
one
one really
probably,
knows. But those spirits are there.
yeah,
There's like, we should honestly just have a whole episode about like people passing and then seeing their spirit in an animal. Like, I have so many stories about that at this point.
that would be fun if people like wrote in.
Yeah,
Some,
wrote their stories and we could
yeah,
like read them out loud to
yeah,
the audience. Yeah. I'm curious to know because I've had a lot of crazy happenings with people passing and then suddenly animal spirits. Like,
yeah. I have as well, and there's not a doubt in my mind that that owl was like representative of Jane. I mean, it was literally like
mhm.
within the hour that she passed. It was
Yeah,
crazy.
that's
And every
crazy.
time I think about it, I get chills. Um, I want to shout out this website that I was looking at. It's called owlpages.com, and
Okay.
it talks about all the different cultures and what owls mean in certain cultures. And there's this one that kind of ties in everything that we've talked about today. I'm just going to read it word for word. A Zuni legend tells of how the burrowing owl got its speckled plumage. The owls spilled white foam on themselves during a ceremonial dance because they were laughing at a coyote that was trying to join the dance. Zuni mothers place an owl feather next to a baby to help it sleep. That ties in the desert season pretty well. We talk about burrowing owls. We've talked about coyotes and then also the tarantula dance.
Oh my God, the tarantula dance. Love that.
Yeah, we gotta get on TikTok, do the tarantula dance.
Tarantula
I
dance.
love that.
It's not really your average, I feel like, Halloween spooky animals, but I loved what we covered today. I feel like normally it's like bats and cats and all the things, but I'm glad that we covered some other animals today. And I hope that everyone enjoyed, and we want to hear what spooky animals that you guys like and kind of revs you up in terms of folklore and getting into the spirit of Halloween.
Tarantulas are cool, ravens are cool, owls are cool. We hope you think all of these animals are cool and spooky for our fun little spooky season for Desert Season 2 of Planet People. Thanks for being here, Planet People. Till next time.
And thank you, Hugh, for joining us.
Yes, that was such a great conversation.
Thank you guys. I enjoy talking spooky things with you. Spooky conservation
Spooky conservation.
vibes.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Planet People. We are thrilled to have you as part of our community of wildlifers who care about protecting the planet for future generations to enjoy.
We hope that by listening, you feel inspired to connect with nature and become a steward of the planet by getting involved and taking action with your local community conservation organizations. Until next time, stay positive, Planet People.
This episode was produced by Natalie Jean Sybil, Coral Carson, and Hugh Carr. Directed and edited by Coral Carson. Theme song by Hugh Carr under the artist name Flama. Thank you, team.